Hello and welcome to the Random Access Show. I'm Panopoulos, and in today's episode we'll be speaking all about Qualcomm's leap into the laptop space. It's going to be pretty interesting, so sit tight and enjoy. I'm Panopoulos and you're listening to the Random Access Show. Hello and welcome to the Random Access Show. Today we are talking about Qualcomm laptops, chips, and a whole lot more. That's right, today we are talking all about Qualcomm's new leap into the laptop space, which may change the way you use your computer forever. Now, in the last however many episodes since this reboot of the Random Access Show and the Random Access Network, we have said a few things that have supposedly or will supposedly change the computing space forever. And maybe it's me exaggerating, or maybe it's the time where everything is changing, everything's getting a refresh, AI is, coming into play, and so it's changing quite a lot. But today, there is actually a major, massive change. And that is that one of the world's biggest semiconductor makers for wireless chips specifically have entered the space of laptop computing and have blown the competitors out. Like, seriously have blown the competitors out. Qualcomm, a company used to making wireless chips, it's based in San Diego, founded in 1985 by Irwin Jacobs and 6 others, including Andrew Viterbi, and it now owns patents critical to many technologies, including 5G, 4G, and a few others. Now, this company is used to making processors also for your mobile phone, for your smartphone, so they make a lot of the Samsung processors. For quite a while now they've been making these processors, and Samsung has been trying to switch to their own chipset, but hasn't happened, or at least not yet for them. But yeah, Qualcomm is in this space. They know what they're doing, they're experienced, but they're not in the laptop space, and that's the industry that they've broken into as of 3 or 4 days ago, as of recording date. And they have actually, like I said earlier, blown the competitors out of the field. It is amazing. Now, you might not know a few of the terms that I bring up today, and I'll explain them to the best of my ability, but let's get into what this chip is. Now, this chip is a system on chip. Now, what that means, and I'm going to keep mentioning the word chip here today, so if your mouth is salivating, don't worry, I'm not talking about chips as in packet of chips. I'm talking about chips as in silicon chips, CPUs, GPUs, and all that sort of stuff. So, this system on chip is a combination of a CPU and a GPU, and that's what a system on chip basically is. It's a chip that is that has a whole bunch of features into the one. And Qualcomm's system on chip is called the Snapdragon X Elite. Now, it's a complicated name, and I'm not going to ask them why they named it that, because, to be honest with you, there are some stupid names out there, and I don't really care why companies name their products that anymore. But yeah, it's the Snapdragon X Elite, and they released it at their event a few days ago. Now, this Snapdragon X Elite is, it's pretty powerful. It's in an unknown benchmark. They gave us scores to an unnamed benchmarking test. The single-threaded CPU performance score, which is a very, very important benchmarking score in CPU benchmarking and measurements. In the single-threaded CPU performance, the score was 3,227 for the Snapdragon Elite. And for the M2 Max, which would be its biggest competitor, the score was 2,841. Now, these may sound like just numbers to you, and they are just numbers to a lot of people as well, and to an extent, they're just numbers for me as well. But they mean something. these numbers are a score, and in most of the time, 95% of the time, the higher the score, the better, and that is the case with this score. So 3227 minus 2841 is around a 400 point difference. 400 points difference between this Qualcomm Snapdragon X Elite, 386 points, sorry. So 386 points difference, 3,227 for Snapdragon Elite, and M2 Max is at 2841. Now that's 386 points difference between the currently leading system on chip in the laptop space, which is the M2 Max, against this new competitor, the Snapdragon X Elite. Now, this chip within the next few days could be thrown out of its space again, because an M3 is, by some people, expected to be released in the coming few days by Apple, because they're holding their Scary Fast event, which, depending on where you are, is either Monday or Tuesday. But so we could be seeing the M3, and if we see the M3, then I'm hopefully assuming that it throws the Qualcomm out of its league, but we don't know what's going to happen. Now, this Qualcomm is actually showing pretty good scores. Now, I actually no one knows what benchmark this was using, so we can't exactly say that it's great scores because we don't know what the benchmark is, but we can say it's great scores because it's compared to the 2841 of the M2 Max, which is the leading system on chip right now. If it's 386 points ahead of the leading chip, you'd assume that's a pretty great performance and performance capabilities. Now, it's powered by and I don't know how to say this. I don't know how to pronounce this. I'm going to say the Oryon, Oryon, pronounce that how you wish. Oryon CPU, which is claimed to be using 70% less power at peak performance than comparable chips. Now, they didn't tell us which chips. Qualcomm is keeping a lot of this secret because it's a new venture for them, and it's not something that they want to be telling us a lot of details about. Now, it's being manufactured on a 4nm process, and a lot of people are surprised that it's not 3nm. Now, I'll have to explain this term to you. The nanometer process that is manufactured on, the lower the number, the better. It's the lower the number, the newer the process, and Intel have actually had a huge controversy surrounding them in the past few years over them not being able to meet the industry standard for nanometers in their own manufacturing labs. But we're not going to get into that today. Well, maybe a future episode. But yeah, it's that those controversies have subsided for the most part for now. But yeah, 4nm process CPU. We are up to the 3nm process. Now, the 4nm process I've only really seen in it was actually by Qualcomm. I saw it in their chip that they were using for the Samsung phone. I'm pretty sure it was the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, and I'm pretty sure that was using 4nm process. But yeah, I am surprised it's not a 3nm CPU, but it shouldn't make too much of a difference. Now, systems will start shipping next year, and it'll support a whole range of stuff, actually. I'm looking at this list now. 64 megapixel camera sensors, 4K video capture, native support for 5G, Wi-Fi 7, and Bluetooth 5.4. So this is supporting bleeding edge standards, bleeding edge industry standards, and the newest technology. This is going to become the industry standard technologies: 5G, Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 5.4. Wi-Fi 7, you can't even really, you can, but you can't really actually get a Wi-Fi 7 router. So people aren't using Wi-Fi 7, and it's already got native support for it. Now, who knows? By next year, we might be using Wi-Fi 7 more prevalently, but I don't know. I don't think so. People are still trying to get into the Wi-Fi 6E market. Again, terms that you may not be familiar with, and terms that I'd probably use another episode for. We do know, however, one detail that we finally know. A new Surface laptop, not Surface laptop as in the brand name, but a new Surface will be shipping with the Snapdragon X Elite next year. So Microsoft was actually quite involved with this launch, and yeah, so new Surface laptop with this new processor. Now, before we get into the last topic, which I really want to talk about, I'll go quickly through a bit more of what Microsoft said. Now, the CEO, Satya Nadella, I didn't even know that he was the CEO of Microsoft, which is probably bad on my part, but I didn't even know who he was. During the launch, he said, Copilot, so quote, Copilot is going to become the start button, unquote. So, I spoke about Copilot in an earlier episode. Please go check that out. And so I spoke about Copilot in an earlier episode and how it's going to change Windows landscape forever. There we go. Two of my predictions that are going to change the landscape together are coming together. Qualcomm, the new Snapdragon Elite X Elite chip, and the Windows Copilot, they'll come together under the one roof. AI, because the Snapdragon X Elite is going to be focusing a lot on AI. And so Copilot will be heavily advanced with this new chip. So these two predictions of mine that they'll change the space forever have, in a way, come true. But we'll have to wait and see for more information on that. Qualcomm also stated that they have plans for some version of this chip to make its way into cars and AR/VR applications. Cars, okay. Now that information was coming from news site Tech Radar. Yeah, okay. So Qualcomm wants to get into a lot of spaces now. The cars space, I'm not very familiar with that space in terms of the chips that they use there. But yeah, look, Qualcomm is breaking the market now. We just need to see real world performance for this chip. But yeah, we're going to get onto the topic that I really want to talk about because we don't have heaps of time, but I want to get through this. It's a step in the direction of ARM. Now, I'm going to mention three terms here, and then I'm going to explain them. ARM, x86, and x64. So, ARM is... Actually, I'll start with x86. x86 is the industry standard for any CPU. Your CPU, if you have a laptop that is even 15 years old, or a PC that's even 15 years old, guaranteed, your PC or laptop is using the x86 architecture in your CPU. What that means is that you may have seen x86 as 32-bit. So when you say 32-bit and 64-bit, x86 is the 32-bit computer, and it's the industry standard, or it was back then, industry standard for CPUs. Now we have 64-bit, which is x64, and that's even now the new industry standard for CPUs, and people are, laptops and PCs manufactured in the last 5 years are most likely to be x64. Now, this is a new architecture called ARM, which has been around in many different applications for years and years and years, but never has been getting into consumer spaces like this since the last, I'd say, 3 years, 4 years. All right, because it's never been that powerful to get into this space. Now, it's available to us as consumers, and ARM may be replacing x86, x64. It's a big topic of conversation amongst tech experts. It's a big topic of conversation amongst tech aficionados, and people are talking about this because if ARM is replacing x86 and x64, there are going to be new instruction sets and new challenges for developers to start programming for ARM architecture. Now, I know this sounds very complicated, and I might link a story or two in the description to help you make better understanding of what I've said. But it's very important what I've just said, that it is a step in the direction of ARM and a step out of the direction of x86 and x64, because it's a new architecture coming into the laptop space. It's been used in M2 and M1 by Apple. Now we're finally getting to see it in a Windows perspective, and we'll see how it works. We'll see what happens to it. Other than that, though, let's get into the quick stuff, because there's only one story today, but it's an interesting story. Audio and video calls are now coming to X, formerly known as Twitter. And yes, I have to call it X because that's the official name. The feature was announced in August, and iOS users have just received the update. So if you're on iOS, update your Twitter app now to get that update. and Android users will be receiving the update soon, or soon enough. We don't know when exactly. Now, only X Premium subscribers. Now, I hate saying that name. I hate saying X. That sounds so stupid. But yeah, only X Premium subscribers will be able to make calls, but anybody can receive a call. So, if you got all that, a bit complicated, but if you got all that, perfect. And I don't think it's a feature that many people are really going to be worrying about. Anyway, now, did you know, before I go, that you're missing out on all that the Random Access Network has to offer? Make sure to join our WhatsApp channel so that you get updates about the latest tech news, about the latest episodes that we've released of Tech Done Fast and the Random Access Show. Join our WhatsApp, join our Discord. I've got the links in the description. Check out our YouTube channel. However, that's all for today for the Random Access Show. I'm Leon Panopoulos. Have a great weekend.